But that's when I really started vocalizing it, because I was being introduced to guys who technically wanted a housewife. And I'm like, well, just because I can cook and clean doesn't mean I want to.
Hi there, Rockstar, and welcome to Stand Out, Get Noticed. I'm Christina Canters, Communication Skills Specialist and Leadership Trainer. I have a wonderful conversation to share with you this week. My guest is Paru, and she's an executive coach known as the C-Suite Whisperer. She's based in New York City, and she spent over 25 years advising CEOs and C-suite leaders on strategy, communication, and supporting them with their careers and all the complexity that comes with executive leadership. And I wanted to speak with her about two things. One of them is about her personal journey of forging her own path despite the cultural and gender norms and the path that were laid out for her. And we also spoke about what it takes to communicate and build relationships with people at the C-level. So if you find yourself getting nervous talking to people in very senior levels of management, or maybe you want to get to that level, this is a conversation well worth listening to. So enjoy.
So I grew up in a very conservative Indian family in England. And from before I was born, my parents had a path. She will be a good Indian girl who will learn to cook, learn to clean, learn to be obedient, learn to serve people, specifically men. She will then go to school and get great grades. She will go to university. She will then find a husband and become a housewife. And I was just growing up believing that. Like at school, friends were like, oh my God, you're going to have an arranged marriage. Doesn't that annoy you? Or doesn't that? And I didn't know any different. I just always knew that would be how it is.
Can I ask, Paru?
Yes.
With that cultural mindset, that path that was set out for you, what confuses me is if you're going to marry a man and become a housewife, why bother going to university in the first place?
I've asked that question too. And it's more of I believe it's a status thing. And it's like showing off, like, oh, look, she's got money. Oh, look, she's got education. Oh, look, she can. Doesn't mean we're going to let her,
okay, but
she can. So it is a status thing, I believe, that, okay. Oh, look, she's a lawyer. And I was, because of my age, I was on the cusp of the stage where a husband would potentially tell me what to do versus a husband being a true partner saying, let's build a life together. So I wanted that second one. But I grew up in a conservative way and kept being introduced to men of the first ilk. And so in my late teens, my early 20s, that's when it really started. I mean, it started before then, but that's when I really started vocalizing it, because I was being introduced to guys who technically wanted a housewife. And I'm like, well, just because I can cook and clean doesn't mean I want to. And I was of the belief that, oh, well, once I get married, I'll be free to do what I want to do. So, but wait, I'm being shown guys or being introduced to guys who want to just continue this life I have, whereas I was hoping it would be an escape and be a life where I could be who I was. And so when I said to my parents that I don't like this guy or I don't like that guy, I don't want to date him, they would say, well, what's wrong with him? So I had to go deep inside and do a lot of analysis of, well, this is who I am. This is what I'd like in my life. Therefore, this is what I'd like in a husband. This is what I'd like in my life. And I had to spell it out to them. But how can I spell it out to them if I haven't done the deep work myself? I think very algebraically. Right. So I had to figure out what all the parts of the equation were so that I could get the result that both of us were happy with, that they would have me married off.
What do you think influenced you to think differently?
I believe I was just born really curious. Okay. And I would be like, well, why is it this way?
Yeah.
Why is it that way? And I wasn't rebellious about it. I was genuinely curious. Well, how comes my brother gets to go out late and I have a 10 p.m. curfew? Why is it that I'm cooking and washing dishes and he sits there and I have to clean the table and him and dad get to watch TV? I mean, If they're human and I'm human, what's with the gender roles? I never got it. I conformed to it just because I was told to, but it would always bug me. The gender roles would always bug me. It was just the way it was in my house. And my dad, raging temper, huge ego, clinical narcissist. It was one of those things where it's safer to conform than push against it. And from a very young age, I was very fearful of pushing against it. I mean, that changed when I got a one-way ticket to New York and was like, okay, see ya. But
so how old were you when you got that one-way ticket?
Oh, I wasn't young.
Okay.
It was 17 days before my 32nd birthday. I wasn't allowed to move out of home until I got married, because the way my family raised me was you belong to your parents until you belong to your husband. And I'm like, what was that? I don't want to sign up for that. But that's just the way it was. So I didn't move out for university because they forbade it. Didn't move out to get my own place because that's not what a single Indian female would do. So I ended up saying to them that if I'm still single by my 30, I said this soon after my 30th birthday, I said, if I'm still single by my 32nd birthday, I'm going to move out. And there was a lot of laughter, like, oh, you'll never survive, you won't do it. And I'm like, by this time I'd been in corporate and been doing very well in corporate, by the way. It was like having two lives. I had two separate lives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I was confused because I believed I could, but they believed I couldn't. I'm like, well, what did I miss? Am I missing something? But anyway, 17 days before my 32nd birthday, I was on a one-way ticket to New York.
And so how did they respond when they realized you weren't joking?
Lots of screaming, lots of threats to cut me off. And they followed through with those threats for about 6 months before they came around. I thought, oh, she's not coming back. So yeah, they followed through with it, and I was scared. The way I saw it, though, Christina, was if I stay, I'll be unhappy. If I go and I fail, I'll be unhappy. But if I go and I'm successful, I mean, the world's my oyster. So it's like, I'm being a little bit facetious, but it's like, do I put my chips on red or black? At least I've got a chance of winning if I put my chips on something.
Yeah.
So I did.
That's extraordinarily brave.
I was so keen to do it, Christina. It was just, I have to do it. And there is a mindset thing here for the listeners as well. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So when I said I'm moving, never did I say I'm moving forever. Never did I commit to saying I'm moving forever. I said I was going to move for a year. That was over 16 years ago. But I said I was going to move for just a year. And again, I'd done the deep work. I knew myself so well that I'd already analyzed worst case scenario. If it fails, or everyone will laugh and give me a hard time. Will I die? No. If I stay, will I die? My soul will. So it was a bunch of bad options. I just happened to choose one that had a chance of turning into a good result.
What did you do to manage that fear that you felt? You know, you're leaving your family, you're going to a new country, you're putting, you know, most of your chips on black. You know, I'm sure that there was that fear going on for you. How did you manage it?
I am so detail oriented. Like, I'm talking spreadsheets, documents, and everything. So one, I did all the research I could do. Two, I already had my backup plan of, if it fails, what's going to happen next. And that's how I've managed my fear throughout all of my entrepreneurial ventures, all my travels, every major decision in my life. It's about, what is the worst case scenario? Let's assume that could happen. What will I do about it when it does? And I get so comfortable with that backup plan that it gives me the freedom to put all my chips on black, like we said, knowing that if it goes on red, okay, I'm going to dip into this, or I'm going to go to plan B, rather than what now. But you have to be comfortable with plan B, before, well, for me, I had to be comfortable with all my plan Bs before I stepped forward in, to do or take plan A. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Paru. Like I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I know we kind of went a bit off the topic that we originally planned, but I'm totally okay with that because I thought this was really interesting, and I think my audience really needs to hear this. So thank you.
You know, you're welcome. There is actually a connection. So I'm really glad you gave me an opportunity to share that story, because I'll tell you what the connection is. Growing up in that kind of household, I was always, and I mean always, on a daily basis, multiple times a day, negotiating with my mum and dad. Things weren't that simple. So I had to learn at a very young age how to communicate and negotiate in a very specific way to get what it is I wanted, or to get the outcome that I thought was best for everybody involved. And I mean, from the age of 4, I was negotiating.
Can you give me an example of what you had to do?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I didn't like going to bed early. One thing I knew was important to them was never denying food. So I used to use food as my weapon and say at like 10 o'clock at night that I was still hungry, and they never said no. And that would mean I would get to stay up. I mean, it completely ruined my physique, but I got to stay up.
I think my 2-year-old is doing that right now with us.
Right. So, and just culturally, food is something that's so important to us that they would never deny food. And I figured that out as a 4-year-old. And it's only recently that I realized that I figured that out as a 4-year-old when I was doing some more reflection. Anyway, fast forward in the corporate world, I communicate in a very specific way, and I behave in a very specific way, which is just who I am. What I didn't realize is how effective it was, and how I always got what I asked for, and how I would turn projects around on time, under budget. I would influence stakeholders who were, no, hate your department, hate your team, not doing it, to, oh, all right, what do you need? Fine, here. Like, I started getting tapped on the shoulder and headhunted internally for change management projects that weren't going so well or were behind schedule. And they'd say, so there's a couple of projects that aren't going so well. Which one do you want? I got to choose which projects I would want to work on rather than being told which project I was working on. And I didn't realize. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm lucky. Okay, someone likes me, or someone thought I did a good job here. But I didn't realize until at least, oh my goodness, 15 years later, that I'm like, oh, hold on a second. I have a certain pattern or methodology or a way of approaching situations that I thought everyone rolled out of bed and did, but they don't. So I started decoding situations for people, and then it became very common that people would ask for my advice and say, oh, well, this has gone wrong, and I'd be like, well, if I may, I've got an idea. And I would give them suggestions, and they'd be like, I didn't think of it that way. They'd go away and do it and come back and be like, how did you know that would happen? And to me, I'm looking at them like, well, I didn't say anything special. That's just how, that worked. And it just became a regular thing.
It's like, don't you just know that?
Yeah. Like, they're saying, how did you know that? And in my mind, I'm like, well, how do you not know that? That's when I started realizing that, I think differently and I communicate differently. Let me help people do what it is I do.
And I think this is a really important lesson for everyone listening as well, is that if you do something and other people start to go, how did you do that? Or how did you know that? It's important to not dismiss it, because they've picked up on something that is unique to you that you probably don't even know that you're doing because you're so naturally good at it. But that is the strength that you need to draw on, which is now Paru's now turned into a whole business. So I want to go back to, you were saying that you just know these things. Is there something, is there a practical tip you can share with our audience around negotiation that can help people to be a bit more, influential and get what they want?
The first thing I would ask them to focus on is what does the other person want and why? What's important to them? The basics are they're in survival mode and they want to look good. And they want either more money or more recognition. Or the other thing, by the way, always note that I believe adults are people who have learned to behave like adults, but we're all kids. We've all got childhood traumas. We all want to be seen. We all want our ego stroked. We all want to be loved. We all want to be recognized. We all want to be thanked. So just because someone's in the C-suite, don't expect them to think or feel as confident as they're appearing to be. When someone's done a good job, stroke their ego a little bit. I'm not saying suck up to them and say fake stuff. I'm saying, oh, you did that really well. I'd love to learn how you did that. I'd love to learn how, or I'd love your advice on how I could also show up this way. So, sorry, going back to your original question, the tip is recognize that they're human and get to the bottom of what they want. That is a very basic thing. And then focus on that. Because then when they get what they want, their barriers are down, they're calmer, their cup is full, they can now overflow and give to you.
You are known as the C-suite whisperer. What I'd love to talk with you about is around how, with someone who is looking to advance in their career, maybe get to that C-level position, someone who's very ambitious, what needs to happen in order to get there, and how do we communicate with people at that level to start building relationships? So why is it important to actually build relationships with people at that level at work?
It's all about trust. Everyone's coming from this ego or fear mindset, whether they label it as that or not, whether they even are aware of it or not. So if there's a senior executive whose job is on the line or reputation is on the line, or his ambition is on the line, he's not going to rely on someone that he doesn't trust or she doesn't trust. So, and trust comes from building those relationships. That's why I would say it's important.
Right. And how early do you think someone can start building those relationships in their career?
Day one. Absolutely day one. From the minute you meet someone, be reliable, be honest, be straightforward. Get to know people and what's important to them, and do what it takes to deliver on what's important to them. The mistake many people make is they're making it about themselves. It's never about you. No one's worried about you or thinking about you. They're thinking about you way less than you think. And when you're trying to impress others by, hey, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, they can see through that. They know you're sucking up to them. It's in their mind, they won't say it to you. And again, they may not even realize they're thinking this, but the judgment goes on, and it's like, well, so what? What's in it for me? Even if they like you, as much as people say they want to help you, I'm yet to meet someone, unless they've made it, I've yet to meet someone who's that altruistic. So when I say made it, it's their definition of made it. Some people just want to get to a C-suite title. Some want to be CEO. Some want to be on a board. Some want to be a chairman. Some want to be billionaires. But until they get to their level of having made it, they're in survival mode.
Really? So even people who appear to be really successful are still struggling?
I don't think they would use the word struggling. That's because I don't think they'd want to admit it. But yes, I have CEO clients who are very, well, this happened and this happened, and then the board said this and this and this, and I'm freaking out. And they look really composed, they look really calm. But in the safe space I provide in my sessions with them, they're like, I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do. So we unpack what it is they really want, what they're scared of, why they want what they want. And then we look at the audience and what will the audience want to see, know, hear, do. And let's reverse engineer, never lie, but let's reverse engineer what they need to hear and see and do, and what you need to tell them. And yes, I help these execs build their confidence in really getting to know themselves on a deep level, so that they can own who they are and who they're not, what they know and what they don't, rather than pretending they know it. Now, there's always a level of winging it, but it's about knowing when you're winging it, knowing when to actually fold your cards, or knowing when to say, I actually don't know what that means. Can you help me? And it's having the confidence to say that and admit it, and say, I need help understanding X, Y, Z.
It sounds like similar stuff that people at any level of the organization go through, really. Like, what I'm getting from this, Paru, is that, like, obviously it's at a higher level and there's more at stake, but the inner challenge is the same. Like, they're just humans like the rest of us.
That's exactly it. And that's the secret that I'm always saying to people, that it doesn't change. There's just more at stake, just like you said. But the insecurities don't change. If anything, they get even worse because there's so much more at stake. They are so much more exposed, their reputation, their salaries, they've got more to lose. If they get fired, they've got a lot more money to lose. They've got a reputation that they need to protect, and there's less space at the top. So if they get fired at, say, the CEO level, the number of CEO jobs out there is far fewer than the mid-level jobs. So there's a scarcity mindset as well, which means fear kicks in. So yes, I agree with you. And I'm not just agreeing with you, I'm telling you that's the secret. But yes, we are all human, and we're all at some level in survival mode, always.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of people have this desire to get to that very high level within a workplace. They want to be in the C-suite. They want to be CEO. From the clients that you've worked with, how many of them get to that level and go, yes, this is exactly what I was imagining it would be?
Yes, it's what they imagine it would be, but they weren't as clear with the baggage that comes with it, or the risks that come with it, or the responsibility that comes with it. They like it because they get treated differently. They haven't said this. I'm telling you what I've assessed by working with them, because they do get treated differently. And who doesn't like to be treated well, right? They get treated well. But yes, many of them at C-suite, whether it's the C-suite or CEO, is, seriously, is that it? Like, I was working that hard for this. In fact, I have clients that I work with who will say, I want to get into the C-suite. And I always ask them why. Like, what do you think is involved? What do you think it's like? How do you think life is going to change? And if they say, I want the money, I always explore, are there other, well, if you want the money, are you okay with this level of responsibility? Or if money is your primary objective, can we explore other ways for you to get paid X and not have that level of responsibility? Or do you really, really get a thrill from having that responsibility or that power? I like to dig really deeply with my clients to understand why they want to do what they want to do. I have executives who want to start their own businesses, and I offer free consultations as well. And I've talked several people out of it, not intentionally. My intention was to be very, very transparent and give them all the information they need, knowing early on that they likely won't want to do what they've come to me and asked for. And when I've told them what's involved, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, oh, interesting. So what you really wanted was the money that you believe unicorn status gives you, but this is what's involved in getting to unicorn status. Are you willing to do that? And they're like, well, no, I've got kids I want to spend time with, or I've got parents I want to take care of, or I don't want to work that many hours. I want to be on vacation. It's like, well, if you want the result that you're asking for in the way you want it, here are the variables in this chemical experiment that must exist for you to get there. And yes, a few of them have been like, oh yeah, I think I'm just gonna go get a job.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like, I'm here if you want to do the business, but it's changed their mindset, Christina. It's because a lot of people are in jobs being very, "Oh, wish I could have my own business, wish I could have my own business." And they're quite bitter with the jobs they have. Understanding that they've chosen the job because they've explored the having your own business thing really helps them embrace the job. And they're so much happier after having proactively chosen to have a job versus wishing they weren't there. So that's really important to explore that too.
It sounds like a lot of the work you do is around helping people to understand who they are and what's actually really important to them.
Yes.
And you get them to stop and think and go, oh, I actually never thought about that. Or I was following this path of success that I thought was important that I needed to do. How hard is it for people to start that exploration of finding out who they really are and what they really want?
When they work with me, it's not so hard, or it's easier, I would say. When you do it on your own, you don't dig deep enough. It's like you skim the answers. Like if I said to you, what are your top 3 values? You'd say, oh, it's this, this, this. Whereas when they work with me, one of the first exercises I do with them is a values exercise where I have a list of 180 words, which are considered values. And through process of elimination, I read them and they say, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. I'm watching their breath. I'm watching their body language. I'm watching where they're looking around the room, how long they're taking to hesitate. I'm listening out for whether they say, yeah, versus yes. And if they did it for themselves, they don't say it out loudly. They're having conversations in their own head, and they don't have that mirror back at them. They're like, oh, tell me about that one. You seem really, you seem to feel really strongly about that. Tell me what that means to you. What does this word mean to you and why? So we dig really deeply into those values. Having someone, so the analogy or the metaphor that's coming to mind right now is it's so much easier to play tennis with a partner versus just hitting the tennis ball across the court and there's no one throwing it back or hitting it back at you. It's just you keep throwing a ball and you're not really achieving much, right? You don't even need to run around much. When I'm there, I'm your tennis partner. And every time you throw something at me or hit a ball at me, I'm hitting it back. And I'm making you run to all like the corners of the court, a soft one over the net, a hard one right at the back of the court. And it helps them dig deeper. So after the values exercise, I then the discovery exercise, which has questions such as, when was the last time you were proud of your work? What are the achievements you're most proud of? They can be personal or professional. Tell me how that made you feel. Tell me when they were, because I like to know how long they've been in a funk for example, if they are in a funk. Who are your button pushers? Tell me names, not, oh, people who are late. Like, think of someone who's late. Tell me what annoys you about them or the scenario when they specifically are late. Because you dig deeper that way rather than being generic. And that's when I spot patterns of behavior. I spot patterns of preferences. And that's when I mirror it back and say, do you realize that you tend to react negatively when XYZ happens, and when ABC happens, you're really calm? And most of the time, they don't know this about themselves because no one's given them that feedback. So that's how I help them get to know themselves, by mirroring it back with evidence that they've provided me.
Awesome. I love that. I'm conscious of time, and I want to ask you to share some of the things that you're really excited about at the moment, because I know you've got some exciting projects coming up. Would you mind sharing with us?
I would love to. I am in the process of writing a book. The current title, which will likely change, but the current title is Messes Behind Successes. And the reason I'm writing that is because I am so bored of reading books from people who say, oh, life was tough, but look at me now, it's great. No one gives you a how-to guide. How do you navigate getting fired? How do you navigate being screamed at in the boardroom? How do you navigate someone else getting promoted over you, or someone embarrassing you in a meeting? It's those little tactical stories. I've interviewed over 25 VPs and C-suite people, to tell me what happened on their way to the top. So I'm excited about that book. And if anyone wants to be on the wait list or be informed when it's published, they can go to my website, which is paruradia.com. And the other subject is, or the other project I'm working on is, I'm also putting together an online course to take people through what I do one-to-one, but compacted in an online course. So all the templates I use, all the exercises I use, all the things that I want people to think about when they're analyzing their own answers to those exercises as well.
Love it. So good. Well, Paru, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been such a pleasure. Love that you shared your story, and I'm sure everyone's going to get a lot out of it.
Thank you so much, Christina.
A big thank you to Paru Radia for being a wonderful and generous guest on the podcast this week. You can connect with Paru on LinkedIn or go to her website at paruradia.com. I will link to that in the description of this episode in your app. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you in the next episode. My name's Christina Canters, and this has been Stand Out, Get Noticed.